That is right. We are back at it. Welcome back to the Pursuit of Progress podcast. Today, we're going to explore resilience, how to turn setbacks into stepping stones, how to fail forward. As always, I'm here with my co host, Adam. Adam, welcome back.
Thanks, man. I'm excited for this one. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I've had over the last few years when I've tried to dig deeper into like what makes people successful is the mindset shift of failure and how it's actually one of the best opportunities for growth and success is through the failures. So excited to kind of talk through this with you, just more on a kind of an off the cuff conversation rather than more of a scripted, prepared type podcast episode. And it's just talking again about just if you guys have ever faced failure that really felt overwhelming, we're going to discuss how you can reframe some of those setbacks and really look at them as opportunities for growth.
Yeah, I was having this conversation earlier this week with a mentor of mine, and I was talking about, this exact thing. How many of us are afraid to fail? We look at failure, we have so much fear about that. And when you're afraid to fail, the real problem with that is that it doesn't allow you to step into who you're called to be. You're always going to play it safe. The analogy that I always use is again, this is just me, my personal experience, what I'm seeing, what I believe in. But there's so many parents out there that focus their focus on with their kids as far as academics is specifically on grades. And they want them to get the very best grades possible. And I think that is such a toxic ideology to direct your kids that way. What you're teaching them to do is to play it safe. And so what happens is a lot of kids, they end up not taking classes that are really going to challenge themselves. They want to play it safe. They only want to take the classes that they think they can get an A in. And they're not taking the classes that will really challenge them. And so because of that, they're going to have this GPA that's phenomenal, and they're going to be a potential valedictorian and have a 4+ GPA. But what are they really learning? Are they learning how to stretch themselves? What I'm teaching my kids is, I want you to challenge yourself. If you're not failing, you're not growing. We set very high benchmarks with everything that we do. And I don't want you to go hit the benchmark every time, because it means the benchmark isn't high enough.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember. It was one of the past episodes. Maybe it was about a year ago, but I can't remember if it was you or it was actually somebody famous that you were sharing this with about like at the dinner table at night, like reframing, how was your day at school today? Instead, like, what did you fail at today? Like what, you remember that a little bit? Like share a little bit on
Yeah,
that.
that's Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx. And when she was growing up, her dad didn't ask her and her siblings, "What did you win at? What did you succeed at?" He said he would ask her and her siblings, "What did you fail at today?" So in a way, they didn't celebrate what they did well. They celebrated what they didn't do well. And the reason for that is because he wanted to teach them, because he knew that growth happens through failure. And so when you fail, you learn, you grow, you become a very strong, resilient, powerful person, as long as you don't give up. And so they'd have these conversations around the dinner table. What did you fail at? Okay, so you failed. Now what can we learn? How can we grow? What can we do different next time? And it's very, very powerful to overcome your failure.
Yeah, I mean, resilience, it's just about bouncing back stronger. I know Michael Jordan has one of the most famous quotes on this. I think it basically just goes, I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that and only that is why I succeed. Kind of looking at it again from an athletic standpoint, I know you and I both work out at the gym every morning, and thinking about just how you grow physically through weightlifting. You don't grow through doing, 3 sets of 10 with a light weight that's just kind of easy. You grow from your muscles being torn down through failure, through repping it out to max, just basically pushing yourself to that limit, where that is when you find growth at that level of failure. And that's just a very simple way to look at it. But unless you guys have ever really pushed yourself in that sense at the gym, it's a great just way to very physically experience this. next week, if you're doing chest and you're doing bench press, instead of just kind of going through the motions, add an extra, 25 pounds on that bar and just actually go to failure, and then see how you feel the next day. And I guarantee you're going to feel sore, and that might hurt at first, but that's that feeling of resilience, of growth, and you can apply that to all different aspects of your life.
Yeah, that Michael Jordan quote that you referenced, I love that because, in a lot of these top performing athletes, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, I'm reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's biography right now, which has been amazing. Total Recall, the unbelievable true life story of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it is. But like Michael Jordan, for example, like they want the ball in their hands at the end of the game when the game clock is running out because they want to take the last shot because they believe in their mind, with their spirit and their heart, that they're going to make it. That's their attitude. Michael
Mm-hmm.
Jordan, though, missed. I mean, what was the stat? Like 27 game winning shots, something outrageous, where he took the final shot, he missed, and they lost. But he had the belief that he was going to make it. And because of that, he was willing to take the shot. He wasn't focused on the possibility of failure. So even though he had this tremendous amount of failure, he also had this tremendous amount of success. And ultimately, that's what he was known for, his clutch shooting. And so many of his highlight moments are end of game, playoffs, NBA finals, last second shot, and that's what he's famous for.
Yeah, I also love just the analogy of baseball. I don't know, you played baseball. I wasn't really big into that back in the day, but this mindset shift of what perfection is or what success is. With baseball, you are a Hall of Fame baseball player if your batting average is what, like 350,
Yeah.
like something like that. So it's like basically 30% of the times that you're at bat, you're hitting the ball, and that's considered an all-star statistic. Just reframing what is success, what is failure, and realizing that you're not going for perfection. It's all relative to whatever it is that you're competing in or what your goal is with whatever this is, about.
When I think of failure as well, I think another really big part of failure is that we're afraid of what other people are going to think. What
Mm-hmm.
are people going to think when I fail? How am I going to be perceived? What's my family going to say? What am I going to have to share with my friends? One thing that I always share with my kids, I tell them this very bluntly: it does not matter what you do. If you have success or failure, people are always going to be critical of you, and people are always going to praise you and encourage you. When you have incredible accomplishments, you're going to have critics. People are going to criticize you when you are winning. People are also going to criticize you when you're losing. It doesn't matter what you do. The results in their eyes, in the critics' eyes, don't matter because they're going to be critical regardless, and those people are always going to be there. So why not just win?
And they're probably being critical because they're too chicken to do it themselves, or it's really this them outwardly reflecting their lack of self-confidence or self-belief in themselves, kind of understanding that. Just, yeah, I think the sooner you can get
Yeah.
past that, the better. And I think that's something that comes with age and maturity. It took me probably until I
It's
was
that
almost
man in the
40.
arena analogy. It's very easy to be critical of the man in the arena fighting the lion,
Mm-hmm.
but that man is still in the arena fighting the lion. So shut your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think another really good, not athletic, um, quote here, but something else that I think everybody will recognize is from Thomas Edison. And he famously failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. And when asked about this, he reframed these failures saying that, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. And this mindset is key to resilience, just totally having a different perspective on that. And this is something that is a competitive advantage because very few people are able to have this ability to not let the failures kind of ding their ego, so to speak. And I just think this is a great, great thing to really just be mindful of and try focusing on if you guys
Yeah.
haven't.
I mean, that's another all-time classic by Thomas Edison. Let's put that in 2025 terms, though, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he attempted the light bulb 10,000 ways, and it didn't work. And he finally found, I mean, 10,000. Yet people are ready to give up on their podcast after their third episode.
Yeah.
They're ready to give up on their YouTube channel because their fourth short didn't have more than 15 views. You're ready to give up on your self-employed business or your side hustle after 3 months, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
so, when you hear that he tried the light bulb 10,000 ways, and we're talking about years and decades, that's a promise that I made to myself that, especially when it comes to YouTube, because it's so easy to get discouraged with the views or the channel growth. And I have just constantly always told myself, I am not going to give up. I will not give up on this. And I'm just going to keep going. And if you keep going, you can't lose. And I think I've shared this before, but this is one of my new favorite quotes. The path to success and failure, it's the same path. One just has an earlier exit. You're
Love
on
that.
the path. The only way you can lose is by if you get off the path and quit.
Hmm. Yeah, that is a very, very good reminder for everybody. And, just speaking very bluntly and personal with you guys, getting a little, personal with you, we're also starting a new webinar, which we're putting out at least twice a month. And the first one had one person. Second time we did it, had two. I think we even did one time that had a donut, meaning we had 0 people show up. But it's that consistency. And over time, all of a sudden, 2 turns into 4, turns into 10. Before you know it, you have a full room of webinar attendees, or whatever. It can be applied to anything here, but just understanding that it's just this also reframing of, from the other side of this, looking at, people that are, oh man, you're just lucky. You're successful just because, you're lucky. And it's not that. It's just all of these things that have happened prior to the success that nobody really takes any, um, you know, nobody pays any attention to that stuff. It's just the end product that they see and don't realize what it took to get there.
Yeah, and I think the consistent effort that you put forth in your social media, your YouTube channel, your Instagram, your Reels, your Shorts, your newsletter, the web. I mean, you were just killing it with your consistency. And you know, are some people going to get turned off by that? Yeah, and that's fine. But you're not going after them.
Hmm. That's good.
Maybe friends are questioning, can you believe Adam or Ben, like, making all these podcasts, and they got a new reel uploading. Okay, that's fine. People are, again, people are going to be critical of you while you're on the journey, but once you get to the mountaintop there, they're going to be asking how you did it, or you know
Love that.
isn't it
Yep.
great to be lucky?
So let's just talk through a couple actionable steps for people that are maybe trying to build up this resilience. And it's a muscle, just like talking earlier about just getting in that feeling of failure with bench press as an example, but just understanding that that failure does take a level of resilience, and it's not something you're just going to get, you know, overnight. All of a sudden you're going to be able to be great at this. It takes time, but a few just actionable steps to help with building this. The first one, Ben, I'll let you share just about reframing just the mindset behind this.
Yeah, really reframing failure as a learning experience, as an opportunity for growth.
Uh-huh.
And the reason I have success is because I failed. And that is so true. My daughter, for example, right now, she's been going through a little bit of a challenging time with her running. She hasn't been running quite as fast as she had hoped in her track season, her first track season this freshman year. So we're going through some of these challenges. And one of the things for her is that she has this mental block, in that she's just a little bit afraid at times to almost run fast, to go through that pain. Because when you run fast and you go, it hurts. And there's an element of pain in there. And so we're working with her on how to reframe that. When you feel that pain, what does that really mean? It means that you're giving your best effort. It means that you've gone out at the correct pace. It means that you are growing as an individual. That's what that pain means. And so we're trying to reframe that with her, where she's not actually looking at that as pain, but she's looking at that more in a way that she's performing at her very best.
Love that.
And
That's
she and
awesome.
she's getting stronger, and she's growing her cardio base.
And that's something that she can apply to so many other aspects of her life in the future. I'm really happy to hear that. That's cool. So another actionable step that I'll share is just understanding how you can conduct a failure analysis. So it's so important to audit and just be very aware of your failures and being able to not just take it as a failure, so to speak, but also using that as a lesson to then improve. Again, our whole point of this podcast is just giving you guys just ideas and tips to just get 1% better every day. And that's how I look at failure also, is by being at least mindful and aware enough to analyze your failures, take what you can from that and apply it to being that little bit better on the next go around, the next attempt. And before you know it, you're going to be significantly better and hopefully, failing in a different way to get even better moving forward.
Yeah, and a third one here is learning to develop emotional agility, acknowledging your emotions and then refocus. With that same mentor that I referenced here, 5 or 10 minutes ago that I met with earlier this week, she taught me this. Have you ever heard of tapping? And so
Mm,
tapping is we have certain kind of hot spots within our body that are emotionally prone, and when we tap on them, it allows us to emotionally reset. So she taught me that when you're going through a moment, and it could be failure, it could be emotional frustration, you could be angry, you want to reset or refocus, and this is how you do it. You just kind of close your eyes and you concentrate, and you start by tapping your hand right here, and then you come up here and you tap your eyebrows, and then you tap your temple, and this whole time you're thinking and you're talking to yourself out loud, what's frustrating you, and you go through this exercise and you just kind of like tap at all these different points here, and then the last one is on your head up here. And then you do it a second time, you do the exact same exercise. The first time you do it, you're talking about what has frustrated you, why you're upset, what you didn't like about the failure, why you failed. And then the second time, when you're refocusing, you're focusing on the positive. What can I learn from? How can I grow? How is this going to make me better? How I'm going to persevere? And this is going to make me a resilient person. So I've started doing this last week. Love it.
hmm.
Love it.
Yeah, I've seen like people kind of doing that tapping a little bit on their face. Never realized what that was. All right, well, let's just kind of close this one out. So another just last one for on my end is just cultivating that growth mindset, just understanding that these challenges are really just opportunities, just mind shift change, even just in a very minor level, but being able to just see this as opportunities when you have setbacks and failures and not just get into that negative woe is me type mentality. I think that is just, again, I've talked about this in a lot of other podcasts, but just the understanding of the glass half full versus half empty, that optimism type mentality kind of plays along with the same idea here, where you're just seeing any sort of setback and challenge and failure really just as an opportunity to get better, and almost as a gift that you're able to acknowledge that and being allowed and given permission to improve upon whatever it is that you're, so to speak, failing on.
Yeah. You know who doesn't fail? The high schooler the high school basketball player who's a star and is 6'6" and he's playing a bunch of kindergartners. Is he going to fail? But how rewarding is that going to be? Who else isn't going to fail? Well, the male trans swimmer who is competing against biological females is not going to fail because they're a male and they're competing against female swimmers. How rewarding is that though, really?
Not at all. So last but not least, guys, just the last tip is just building a supportive network to help guide and encourage you along the way. Just finding other like-minded people that also understand this concept and hopefully can, kind of motivate each other with this, and just, kind of give you a little pep talk. Because obviously, despite this being kind of a upbeat type idea, yeah, obviously still failure can hurt. Losing the championship game, whatever it may be. I mean, yeah, that sucks, but still being able to embrace that feeling and just pull whatever you can out of it to just give yourself that advantage the next time you attempt whatever it is you're working on.
And why? This is one of my favorite Jim Rohn quotes. Why is that so important? Because of what it will make of you.
Say that again.
It's so important to do this and have high goals and not be afraid of failure because of who you will become and what it will make of you.
Like that.
You're going to become a remarkable, resilient, powerful person. What we would love from you guys, our audience, as we sign off here, Share your stories with us. Share your stories of resilience. Reach out, hit us up on social, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and review.
Yep, absolutely, guys. We really appreciate the support and look forward to continuing to grow this with you as we go into the rest of 2025. If you guys have any suggestions for future episodes, or maybe you want to be a guest on the show, feel also free to reach out to us. We'd love to chit chat a little bit about that, and hopefully have you guys on to share more stories and just ways that you've hopefully improved on your life publicly with the rest of our audience. So, with that, Adam, with Ben, Pursuit of Progress podcast, signing off. We'll see you guys on a brand new
See you guys
episode
next week.
next week.
Love you guys.
See ya.